legends, I hope you're all amazing. Today we're on the Axe-FX 3 and this video is going to be part tutorial, part opinion piece because why not? I've used this unit a lot. I really love it and it works for me. So I want to talk about why it works for me, and I also just want to show you how I would use it on a day-to-day basis. And this is for a few reasons. One, I normally try to stay away from the opinion piece or review style thing on my channel for a couple of reasons, because the main one, you can hear what something sounds like. So if I play something, I go, wow, this sounds really good. And you listen to it and you go, you know what? I don't think that sounds very good. Maybe this isn't for me. Or maybe you might hear and go, wow, that does sound really good. Tell me more. And whether it's the Axe-FX or whether it's some pedals or amps or vintage rack gear or something like that, I do try to focus on more of the just like demonstration aspect on this channel rather than the spicy hot takes. So why not put some spicy hot takes in while we're doing this? But the reason I get so much out of this comes down to two basic factors. Aside from the fact that it sounds really good, I think we all know that a unit like this sounds very good indeed. But the main reason is that I can work super fast on it. So I can go from nothing, like this empty preset I've got at the moment, to a pretty good sound. For me, what I would consider a pretty good sound, being totally subjective again, really quickly. Like I can just sort of go, well, I've got my guitar plugged in, so I'm gonna run some cables across here using Axe Edit, and then I'm gonna drop some blocks in here. And I was listening to a Steve Lukather track last night, so I'm going to bring up like a Soldano or a Boogie or something like that. I'm going to drop a cab in here. I'm going to drop in a big delay and a reverb, and that's where we're going to start, because this is the thing that kind of gets me going in the morning. A lot of gain, bit of delay, bit of reverb, lots and lots of fun. Let's maybe just bring up the Soldano SLO 100, Solo 100 lead. I'll just leave it at the stock settings. I have a cabinet IR that I use on basically everything now, and I have it saved in my channels library, so I'm just going to do this. And there's my cab, got a bit of preamp saturation and some high and low cut in there. Delay, let's use the 2290, that always sounds pretty good. We'll go for maybe 400 milliseconds of delay. I know that I like this particular value, bring the mix up, and the 2290 is cool because there's a ducker built into it, just like the real unit, so I'll add a little bit of ducking in there. And let's just bring up the London Plate reverb. I know I really like that one. So what does this sound like? I don't mind the taste. That's pretty cool. If I was going to just warm up this morning and play over some backing tracks, that's going to do the trick for me. I can make that from scratch. And if I wanted a different flavor, maybe I'll work up and I said, you know what? I watched a video with Dave Friedman talking about the HBE. So maybe I'll bring up that particular amp model and I'll pop it in here. And, Dave was talking about bringing up the bass on the real amp model. So I'll do that and have a listen to it. That also sounds kind of like the thing I would enjoy. So lots and lots of options, but this is something that gets talked about a lot. Maybe there's too many options. Maybe I then want to go, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll try HBE V2 or V1. And that is something that I've had to learn the hard way, where I actually personally have to be disciplined. This unit giving me lots of options and making it really easy is a feature, not a bug. If you have an issue with that, then that is your issue. If you can't make a decision choosing an amp model, or you can't make a decision when you're writing a riff or writing a chord progression, that is part of the craft of, either crafting a guitar tone or writing a song or writing a riff. It's about making decisions and realizing that those decisions are very contingent on how you might feel in a particular moment. So I'm totally cool with this at the moment. Wherever I've dialed this Friedman up, I feel like that's got enough distortion. There's some nice delay and some nice reverb on there, and I can move along. I could play a guitar solo with this and just have a good time. That's normally what I want to do with a guitar in my hands if I've got some free time. So that's one example of dialing in something appropriate. Maybe I'm recording something and I actually have to be a responsible adult and go, you know what, I need to record some guitars for like a pop track and it needs to be a chimey sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is go for a different reverb on this. You know, maybe it wants a nice big hall. We'll just start with the music hall. Maybe it needs a delay in front of an amp, so I'll drag this over here. Maybe it needs some kind of chimey amp, like a Vox style thing. Let's try this AC20, and it needs to be like an old school delay. So I'll bring up the Deluxe Memory Man model in here, which is Deluxe Mind Guy, I think it's called. I'm probably staring right at it. There we go, yeah. And you know, just like a dotted eighth edge style thing. So I can do that. Let's set the subdivision to where I want it. I might turn the mix up a little bit on this and bypass it. Let's just hear what the amp sounds like. I'm going to use a split mode on my PRS as well, so it's probably going to be really bright. I like that big shiny hall on there as well. Let's try the delay. That's pretty cool. Maybe I want to blast that with some kind of really disgusting character tone, like a fuzz. You know, another thing that I'm always chasing, especially when I'm recording so-called character tones, things that sound really, really nasty. So let's turn the delay off and let's smash a fuzz face in here. I think with a lot of modern guitar sounds, it's often this balance between having really pristine, gorgeous sounds and then really disgusting lo-fi sounds. So I could add this fuzz face. That's pretty gross. Maybe I want some more character out of the reverb. So maybe I want like a spring reverb. Let's use the Deluxe Spring. Maybe I want it before the amp. Easily fixed. Maybe I want to use a different cabinet IR. You know, the factory one, number one, this pig nose IR has a whole bunch of character about it. This is probably going to sound horrendous. It's what I'm chasing. Nice. That's actually really, really fun. And you know, if I wanted a more subtle fuzz thing, I could do that. I could play around with nerdy stuff like the input impedance over here. I'm going to set this to 90K with a cap so that I get some kind of virtual cleanup with my fuzz tone. That's pretty cool. So that's another thing that I like. It's really quick and easy to get character tones. If I wanted something super lush and ambient instead, let's turn this drive off. I normally just go to the Band Commander amp model and we can just chuck on one of these big pitched reverbs like the Ursa Major. Crank the time up on it, and I spend a lot of time noodling around with stuff like this. Have a listen. You can see here that even though this unit has a real reputation for being a tweaker's paradise, I'm actually not really doing that much tweaking. I'm just kind of chucking a particular effect on. You know, if you owned a Strymon Big Sky and you've ever tried the clouds mode on it, a lot of the time you bring up the clouds mode. You don't really tweak where you're at. It just immediately pops out at you like, wow, this is cool and I want to do stuff with it. Same with the reverb block here. Same with so many aspects of this on here. The other cool thing is that I'll show you, I'm using my Universal Audio Apollo Twin as my main interface. So it's got two mic preamps on here, one of which I'm using to record my voice. You can see it bouncing up and down here. The other one I normally use to record guitar cabinets with a microphone. So that one's just muted at the moment because I'm not using it. But I run a single SPDIF cable from my AXFX3. It actually goes to an SPDIF to optical converter, and that goes into the Apollo Twin. And I've got a channel right here, which is my AXFX channel. So super easy, one cable, stereo, connects to my interface. It actually adds more inputs to my interface so I can patch in some of my old rack gear that I've got here, like my old Eventide and TC and my Boogie Mark IV that I've just rack mounted. So if I do want to use those and integrate them with this, that's really quick and easy. The other massive factor with this is that I can be really creative with it if I want to. So having access to things like controllers, it's basically like a kind of synth style setup in here. You've got LFOs, you've got ADSRs, envelopes, you've got a sequencer. Probably my favorite fun controller in here. I'll show you how it works. And you might have seen this on the channel before, but I'll bring up my absolute favorite amp settings in here, the Boogie Mark IV. And I'll bring up my cab that I was using before. Let's go back to some different reverb. That Ursa sounds really, really nice. Let's just bring the London plate back up. What I can do with this is, let's say I wanted to have slightly less distortion on the low strings and more distortion on the high strings, and I wanted a delay to like automatically swell in when I get up high and start playing. So I could do that by tracking the pitch of all the notes and using the pitch follower controller. So this is what it sounds like at the moment. Maybe let me bring a delay back here. We'll bring up one of my other favorite delay sounds in here, the Zephyr delay. It's really straightforward to create a kind of dual delay thing with this. I'll set the main subdivision to a quarter note. We'll go 75% on the ratio. We'll bring the mix down a little bit. This is like I guess like a lexicon style diffuse delay in here. Sweet, that's nice and greasy. Let's do this. Let's use this input trim, which is just a kind of flat input gain control for the amp block. I'm gonna right click this and I'm gonna assign the pitch follower modifier to it. So let's say on the lowest string, I want this to be about like half the amount of gain that I've got. And then on the highest string, maybe like 4 or 5 times, because why not? And I'll do the same thing with the delay. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set the delay mix to a particular value. We'll use the delay input gain, and we will also map that to the pitch follower so that the minimum is 0 and the maximum is just going to give me wherever that mix is. So what I get is, I'm actually going to turn the reverb off so you can really hear this. When I play down low, very little delay, not as much gain. When I get up high, more gain, heaps of delay. That's super cool, and that's something that would require a whole bunch of trickery to do with like a real amp and a pedal board. In fact, I can't even think of a way you would do that. Another cool thing is, if you're into modulation effects and maybe you're into old rack gear, like I'm into the old Eventides and stuff like that, let's just drop a pitch block in here. And I've got some stuff that's been matched to the Eventide hardware. This would be like a classic preset in the H3000, just a big dirty dual D tune. Nice and greasy, but what I could do to that is I could introduce some variability on the D tune. Let's do this. Let's attach an LFO to D tune number 1. We'll use LFO 1A, and we'll just set the parameters sort of to maybe move between, some subtle values, like maybe 7 or 8 cents and then 13 cents in there. And what I can do is on the other D tune, I will do a very similar thing, but I'll use LFO 1B. And I can set the phase between these two LFOs so they can be totally out of phase. That's pretty cool. And we'll do like the negative version of those values on there. So something like this. I'm going to set max to be down here and min to be around here. And what I can now do is go to the controller section. I can set this LFO to be a whole bunch of different things. Let's actually set it to be a random LFO with a kind of low rate. So it's not changing that fast, but it's unpredictable now. And then we can actually come in here and add some damping to this so that the attack is a little bit smoother. So it's not an immediate random shift in there. Anybody familiar with, I guess maybe not the H3000, I think it might have been like the H949 and some of the older early digital stuff, you know, the clocking wasn't super consistent and that was part of the charm. It had character. So you can add character to these otherwise pristine sounding effects. You can of course have them totally pristine. And you know, this is subtle, but it's pretty cool. Again, pretty subtle. I'm listening pretty loud through my studio monitors. It's just like that effect of being a little bit crusty sounding to me. What do I do with the detune here? That's what I want. You can see, maybe I can bring this up and it can get really detuned in some parts, and similarly over here. You have similar things in the delay block. Like I think the delay block is a tweaker's paradise if you like creative effects. You know, you've got stuff like a compander and bit reduction and drive and diffusion and all sorts of fun stuff that, you know, maybe some units out there have one of these features like diffusion or the drive, but you've kind of got all of it in here available on the Fractal stuff. Another cool thing, I find one of the most powerful delays is this mono tape delay. And you know, like old school tape delays, if you change the motor speed, you would get pitch shifting. So you could do something like this where you take a kind of longish delay. Let's do a half note value, and then let's attach an LFO to the motor speed and have it go from like a maximum of 1 down to a minimum of a half, something like that. So we get basically an octave pitch shift whenever we want it. We could even offset it a little bit. I'm going to use the command button on here. There we go. This is the one I want. Get it right on there. And what we'll do is we'll use a square wave LFO. So it just snaps between the two values. We'll go right there. And this is going to be kind of weird, but also kind of fun. I'm going to turn the reverb on. I'm going to bring the tempo down a little bit. Let's go to 90 BPM. And I'm going to bring the feedback right up as well. And bring in a second head, because I can do all these things on here. Pan them out. This is going to be kind of wild. Let's hear it. That's really only the tip of the iceberg here, and to me it really puts the play back in playing guitar when you've got this sort of control. And I totally understand that that sort of control isn't appealing to a lot of people. You know, they just want to have a couple of knobs and be able to get a couple of nice sounds. That is totally understandable. Again, a lot of this comes down to personal discipline, you know, knowing that you're going down the rabbit hole and weighing up, if I go down this rabbit hole, am I going to find something that's really, really exciting and really cool, or am I just obsessing over minutia? And I find that just comes with experience. It's something that really you have to actively work on, and you're going to get that with any piece of gear. Now, I know people who cannot control that urge as hard as they try, which is why a tuner pedal, a Boss SD1, and a Marshall JCM 800 into a cab works so well for them. I feel like I have a slightly better control over those urges most of the time, so something like this really, really works for me. And the overall, you know, quality of the sounds here is so consistent as well. I remember, you know, and I still get this, some days I plug my old boogie in and I don't know what's going on, but I'm not as into the sound as I was the other day. Whereas with this, I found that I can dial up these amps and they sound the same day to day, which again, can be a really positive thing. It's definitely a positive thing doing live gigs where you have consistent tone coming out of your boxes. It's not affected by the quality of the power or whatever the air temperature is or which hair product you put in your hair in the morning. But part of the fun with, you know, analog stuff or hardware amplifiers is that inconsistency. And I feel like that's what we're chasing a lot of the time is actually, you know, this stuff that's outside of our control. So it comes down to what I was talking about in my last Q&A, where you like control the controllables. This gives you a lot of control, which I like. I personally really enjoy that because then I can have less control if I want. I can use random LFOs and controllers and get some very interesting stuff happening. And some people don't like that. That's totally fine. You know, I'm talking about my subjective experience here. And like I said, I've had a lot of experience with this box and it's like a gift that keeps on giving. You know, every time I turn it on, I feel like I learn something new about what I can do with the unit, what I could do with the real world equivalent amplifier or something like that. It's actually something that has taught me a lot about what I like and don't like with guitar noises and audio in general. And, you know, for that, that's not something you get out of every piece of gear every single day, which is why it's kind of special to me and why I really love the Axe-Fx. But I want to hear from all of you now. Is that how you feel about it? Do you have a piece of gear that does a similar thing for you, whether it's a piece of guitar gear or a piece of studio gear or, you know, something that you have in your kitchen? Let me know about it. Let me know about your totally subjective experience and, you know, promote the things that you love rather than taking so much energy and funneling it into things that maybe you don't like. You know, the internet is really, really good for that. And that definitely has its place. You know, there are criticisms of just about everything that you can come up with. And again, that's part of the reason why on my channel, I don't really do this like long-winded opinion piece thing very often, because I'd much rather go, hey, you know, we're going to go from 0 to hero in 5 minutes. If you like it, do it. If you don't like it, just move on. You know, there's so much stuff out there that you can watch on the internet. But if you've watched this far, I will say a massive thank you. And if you want to support what I do on my channel, there are links to my Patreon and the music I make in the video description. You can also get some free impulse responses. You can come and join the Discord server and have a chat about all this stuff. And thank you so much for just letting me go freeform and do what I do. I really do appreciate it. Hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all next time.